Howdy, all. It's the day before American Thanksgiving, which traditionally is one of the most psychotic days of the year. Everybody comes into town to either pick up their relatives to go someplace else, like one of my friends, or comes into town to fill their bellies and then leave town.
Yeah, I don't travel on this day.
Yeah, no,
If I go way before.
yeah, believe me, like tonight, it's like I'm going to get dinner, Chinese food.
Hmm.
And then I will be by 6:30. I will be in for the night, and that's it. I mean, I will not. There's a race in Buffalo, like it's called the Turkey Trot. It's like a 5K. It's usually fun. It's in the neighborhood that I live in, and I'll go and watch that, and then as soon as I'm done with that, I go in and put the turkey in the oven, and there you go. But it's just, I mean, and then Friday is Black Friday, and thankfully I will be sitting at home doing the webcast that day and not doing anything else. So
Yeah, I won't watch the Thursday night football game. I'll watch the first two. I kind of wish there was a hockey game. I found out after the fact. I was on Sirius this morning, and we all felt like, hey, it'd be nice if there were a couple games.
yeah.
But they collectively bargained on this. But again, this is like you have a captive audience. Why would you have a game at night? You would get ratings. I mean, I don't want to watch 3 football games. I won't do it.
Well, I mean, I'll be watching movies or I'll be on Netflix or something like that. But I absolutely am being in Buffalo. There is never any competitive football, so I really have no interest in watching the Detroit Lions or the Cowboys.
I have it on in the background.
Not even then. It's like it's just I'm done.
What do you got going on that's so important that you couldn't have that on in the background to just see with no sound? Come on,
I'd
Mike.
rather watch the Godfather marathon on AMC that they run. Usually they run that on Christmas, but if they're running the Godfather marathon, I'd rather watch that.
Okay, that's fair. How many times can you watch a movie though? Like I'd watch The Godfather enough.
I get that. I mean,
I always say, Sonny, don't go to the toll booth. He still does. I always, you know what I mean? It's like how many times?
Mo Green, don't put your glasses on so you get the shot through them. Then you need a new pair of glasses when you grow a new eye.
Don't kiss your brother. Oh, it's too late. How many times?
Well, hey, maybe I'll watch JFK because today is the 54th anniversary. Is it 54? Yeah, 54th anniversary of the assassination of President Kennedy. And it's funny, Russ. There was such a big deal made about a month or two ago about the secret files.
That was like such a joke
being released, and then not unless there's biographers combing through every page made available by the Freedom of Information Act. Nothing of any, nothing came out other than like FBI tracking of Martin Luther King. And I don't understand why this had anything to do with JFK.
Unless they had to tip something was going to happen to Martin Luther King.
Well, no, it was like basically FBI tracking of Martin Luther King that was apparently authorized by Robert Kennedy as Attorney General during the Kennedy administration. The FBI was spying on him, and they found out that he was having a bunch of affairs with, Joan Baez and other people and whatever. I don't understand what that had to do with the Kennedy assassination, but that
sounds very Hooverish, yeah.
Yeah, but that was the only thing that I didn't, that was a revelation, and I'm like, okay, that has nothing to do with Oswald or the Cubans or the Russians or anything. So, yeah, whatever. Let's talk hockey. Yes. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, November 22nd, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Well, we had 3 games in the NHL last night, and a couple franchises that are in deep doo-doo. And we'll talk about them in a few minutes, but we'll talk first about the game that Russ. Were you at the? I
didn't go to that game. I watched it.
You watched it. The Flyers and the Vancouver Canucks. Canucks win 5-2. I watched about, I'd say, a period of this game. I missed the Besser show because apparently he was very impressive in that game. And I believe he combined between this year and last year, he's played 27 games. He's got 24 points in those in those games. That's the most at this point from any rookie in the history of the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, I mean, that's a great number for sure. I don't put much stock into those things, but
yeah,
the one play, the first goal, like you knew this was going to be a bad night for Philly when he breaks out on the right side, gets the puck, and then I could see early on that Vancouver was stretching Philly's defense, and they were throwing out long passes, and they were making Philly sort of hoof it to catch up to these guys. Besser's all alone, and the minute he cranked up that shot, you knew it was going in, and that was bad. And then, the Daniel Sedin goal was impressive because they had to see if it was goaltender interference, but he really streaked to the open ice, got a puck, and banked it in off of Neuwirth. That was a really impressive goal for, what is he, like 37?
Yeah.
He showed some pretty good speed. So, if I'm Vancouver, I'm still offering them a deal, but I'm saying, hey, I'll give you each $4 million and we'll just go year to year. That's what I would tell them, and I think they might do something like that. But Vancouver would look really good. Philly's defense was hurting. After the game, Mark Alt, I believe, cleaned out his locker, and now Sam Morin and Danik Martel, a forward, were called up. So we could be seeing Morin on Black Friday against the Islanders. Martel, look, he can rip it up in the AHL, but he's a quadruple A player. Like, he is that guy. Every time he goes down to the Phantoms, he does great. Every time he comes up, he can't get in the mix. So I don't think he's going to add very much. And I'm really, online, I'm really getting tired of these Brayden Schenn people, because here's the thing, and I've spoken to a lot of people about this. There's a couple things. Now, I said last year for Lehtera, 2 years ago he had 34 points, the year before 44, when he had 14 goals. That was a great Tarasenko effect. There's definitely an effect when you play with him. And him and Schwartz, there's no comparison to the way that line is to anything they had in Philadelphia. And even this year. Even Voracek and Giroux are not Tarasenko and Schwartz. There's a completely different element there. There's, the brute force of Tarasenko with all the skill and everything else that Voracek has. And then there's the speed that Schwartz has that's faster than Giroux. And, yeah, Schenn's not the most fleet of foot guy, but he's fitting in well with them because he always had a good shot and good eye hand. Now, the difference in Philly last year was, hey, he was scoring on the power play. He was almost all power play, no 5-on-5. But they did this trade because, A, they wanted to fit in Nolan Patrick. And, yes, he's not ripping it up right now. But, he's not quite – yeah, he's not quite a second-line center. But why are you going to pay Brayden Schenn long-term when long-term you don't think your team's going to win the Stanley Cup this year anyhow? Maybe some fans did, but they were kidding themselves if they thought that. And B, you're looking at the situation and you're like, okay – we have Nolan Patrick, and we lost the term now on Schenn because Lehtera's contract, I believe, is up at the end of the year, and Schenn's goes on for a couple more years at a pretty hefty salary. So, again, Ron Hextall's under fire from fans, but I just bring up the 76ers and say, hey, how many years did the 76ers not look right while they were going through their rebuild? And now they're a 500 team, and everybody's thrilled. They're clicking their heels. So, it seems like there's a different set of circumstances for the Flyers in Philly. It's different.
Well, I mean, and we mentioned this before. I mean, Schenn he played some center, but he played mostly wing with Philadelphia, correct?
Yes.
Okay. He's playing center now, and he's playing center between two of the better wingers in the league.
Right.
And if you look, Schwartz is not a big guy. Neither is Tarasenko. They're more players on the periphery.
But Tarasenko's strong as hell, though.
He's strong, very strong, but I don't think his game is – he's not a cycle game player. He's a guy who's got a great shot, who, will kill you from the face-off dot in. Schenn is a perfect fit for that line because I think he can go into the corners. He's a bigger guy. He can do that kind of work, and he can get the puck to them, and he's a decent playmaker. So it's just – right now it's a good fit. Everything is clicking, and that line had – I had 12 combined points last night. We'll talk about that game in a second. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think Flyers fans should be, bemoaning the fact that, Brayden Schenn is doing all this with St. Louis. You're right. They had Patrick. Patrick is going to be probably one of their top 2 centers, for the next decade.
Yeah.
And, you had the luxury. I mean, they did get a first-round pick in that deal. They cleared $5.5 million worth of salary. The only part of that deal that I don't like, and I know that you think he's still an effective player, is Laterra. I mean, Laterra was not doing anything with St. Louis the last couple of years, and maybe I don't know how well he's really playing right now with Philly.
He's doing okay. He's not doing great. I thought he might do better when he trimmed down and looked faster, but so far, not great.
Yeah. And looking at Vancouver, yeah, I think you're right about the Sedins. I mean, if they, I was saying the same thing about Thornton and Marlowe in San Jose last year, that I thought those guys would be so anxious to stay in San Jose that they would take one salary and divide it by 2, because they were both making around $7 million last year, and that Marlowe was able to get a 3-year deal from Toronto, and Thornton is making $8 million on a 1-year deal, which I don't think. Let's just say this: I don't think San Jose is going to give him $8 million next year. And if they're not a playoff team this year, I think Joe Thornton is probably going to be heading east, in free agency. But I look at Vancouver and the young guys. It's Horvat, it's Virtanen, it's Besser, and I think that the focus is less now on the Sedins, and that's the way it should be. It's actually the way what happened in San Jose a few years ago. The baton was passed from Thornton and Marlowe to Couture and Pavelski and Donskoy and Hurdle. And if Vancouver can effectively do that, then then they may be a lot better than I thought that they were going to be. I'm still waiting for the collapse, though.
Yeah, I know you're. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. The idea is right now, Philly's in this cycle of mainly a rebuild, and if they can be competitive, great. I know. She's just she's in her own world.
That's going to be the picture for the on YouTube.
It could be. And so with all that going on, it's like you look at it and you say, all right, the Flyers weren't planning on winning this year. Schenn's going to 2020, so they're at least saving 1 year's $5.1 million plus every year. Laterra only makes $4.7, so it's $400,000 that they're saving every year on the deal. So that was a factor, and you have to just trust Ron Hextall the same way that everybody trusts the 76ers. There can't be a double standard.
Does this have anything to do with Simmons' contract coming up and them needing the freedom?
I'm sure. Yeah, and that's and Simmons hasn't had a great year, and he'll tell you that. And so that's something where he's going to have to prove it before he gets paid now. And so at the end of the day,
how much more does he have to prove?
If he wants to get bigger money, he's going to get paid, but he's not going to get paid like a superstar. That's not off the year he's doing right now.
Now, the game that I mentioned briefly, the Blues put 40 shots on the Edmonton Oilers, score 8 times, 8-3. First, the Blues. We just talked Schwartz, Tarasenko, Schenn. Pietrangelo is having a great year. I did not expect this from I expected the Blues to be a playoff team, but I didn't expect them to be this good. And now they're at the top of the standings. They're ahead of Tampa.
Yeah. No, it's been a really amazing year. And, the other part of that Schenn trade is, there were picks in there too. I think Frost is from the St. Louis pick.
Yes.
And Frost is a really good prospect.
He's having a great year in Sault Ste. Marie.
So that's another thing that Flyers fans just want to, the angry ones just want to sort of ignore. But it's worked out in the short term for St. Louis, but St. Louis needed to do something in the short term. Like they have a win now team. Bouwmeester's not getting any younger. Their fans are getting itchy. Like that's, unfortunately, again, it's Jacques Plante and Glenn Hall since they've been to the Stanley Cup, and they were 40 years old each, I think, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, no, this is their opportunity. They made the conference final 2 years ago. If you look at that division, Chicago, I think, is at best staying on an even keel, but I think sort of falling back. Minnesota with Parise and their goal scoring issues, they're sort of middle of the road. Winnipeg's having a great year offensively. Nashville's, I think, improved with the Turris acquisition, but that division isn't as deep and tough as it was. And now, I mean, there's a path for them. You know, the only path that prevents them from getting out of the division is probably through Nashville.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, if they keep this going, obviously I think that they, you know, I mean, the playoffs are completely different than the regular season. We know that, but yeah. I mean, this success, I mean, and this is mostly without Bouwmeester, without their second best defenseman.
Yeah, he's back now, I think.
He's back now, yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's amazing what they're doing. Jake Allen isn't propelling them, but he isn't hurting them. I think he's one of those goalies that right now it's going right for them and for him. And so, yeah, I mean, they're going to probably make a move at the deadline. They'll be a strong player in the West. There's no question about it. Like you said, Nashville will be a strong player in the West. And I still think Anaheim will get into that mix too. And Calgary is definitely a strong player, as we know.
Yeah. Now let's switch to the Oilers here because it keeps going from bad to worse. Now they got some production out of Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins. I think McDavid had an assist last night. But, you know, 8 goals, you're not going to win when you're giving up 8 goals, even against a team that's having the kind of success that the Blues are. And the Oilers just don't seem to have an answer right now. And I know that as part of their insider trading yesterday, I believe it was Bob McKenzie was reporting that Peter Chiarelli was in Buffalo to watch the Columbus-Buffalo game a couple nights ago. Now, I don't see any.
It would be for Columbus. Columbus is loaded.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not for Buffalo because Buffalo's deep. You know, it's clearly defense from all the indications that Edmonton is looking for, and it's got to be Columbus. And if it's Columbus, I don't think they're trading Seth Jones. I don't think they're trading Zach Werenski. So it's either a guy like David Savard, who's an established guy, or a Ryan Murray, who's an RFA at the end.
No, I don't think it'll be Murray. You know, I think it'll be Gabriel Carlson, who they had up earlier, and they just sent back down to Cleveland. And again, there's probably a little offensive upside, not a lot, but a really good puck mover, really strong defender, and he would help them in the puck moving category for sure.
And a big body, he's like 6'5" or 6'6",
and he's got size. And so, all of a sudden, then if you put like him and Nurse together, then you're talking about a pretty formidable pairing there. I could see that.
Yeah, but based on what we were talking with Kevin yesterday, based on the fact that what they're really missing is that puck rushing defenseman. You know, Carlson doesn't fit that. I don't even know.
But they're still not getting that. Like, unless they're giving up, Yarvi and a first-round pick, and they're not getting that.
I think that's a possibility. I think them giving up Puljujarvi in a deal to get themselves a defenseman that can help them.
I don't think they're going to do it, and I'll tell you why. I mean, they've done the right thing with Puljujarvi so far, right? Because he's not quite there. And like I told you, I felt like it's sort of mental. And they definitely did the right thing for Yamamoto because now you see with all the problems going on with the team, it's better for Yamamoto to have another development year and just have a taste of the NHL. So I think because of them doing what they're doing with those players, they're not trading them. I think if they would have kept them up to sort of like showcase them, then they would be trading them. So I don't think either of those guys are going. I think it will probably be Nugent Hopkins that will go because he's part of that old regime. And at some point you could get a return for him. And so I think he's the guy that ends up going.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Columbus is looking for a center.
Yes.
Because they were in on Matt Duchene. And if it's Nugent Hopkins,
it'll be more than that. They'll sweeten it.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to. I mean, well, I would think it's Murray or Savard.
I mean, it could be Savard, but I don't know. But if they just decided, hey, you know what, we'll take Carlson and you give us some draft picks, they might do that. They might, because at this point,
just to clear out Nugent Hopkins' salary.
To clear out the salary, and you're also getting a defenseman you could use for the next 10 years.
Right. I mean, they let's just say this.
At a cheap rate, which is going to be an attractive thing for the Oilers because, yes, they're up against it.
Edmonton is going to have to move out. And, I know that we've said, and other conversations we've had says, well, every team is paying two or three big contracts. Well, yes, but Draisaitl and McDavid total up $21 million. That's the highest paid tandem. It's tied with Kane and Taves.
Right.
So I'm not sure how much room there is for a $6 million contract in Nugent Hopkins on top of those two guys when you're paying Lucic, when you're paying Clefbaum and Larson and all these other guys. And,
and that's why I think Nugent Hopkins will go.
You have a commodity, a center, other than other team. I honestly think on a good team he's a number 2.
Yeah, no, he's still a number 2 because if nothing else, he's really good in the faceoff circle, and he's still going to get you 40 points. I mean, so yes, he needs to change the scenery.
Yeah,
he does.
The third and final game on the schedule last night was the Dallas Stars and the Montreal Canadiens. I watched the tail end of this game, and no offense by the Canadiens whatsoever. They pulled the goal. They pulled Charlie Lindgren late in the third, trying to get the tying goal. I don't think they had a good scoring chance in the final 2 minutes. And then finally, Sagan and Radulov. I thought Sagan was going to pass it to Radulov as a nice little bit of revenge on the Canadiens, but he took the shot and scored the empty netter. Now, one interesting thing, I heard comments made by Radulov before the game, and I think it was to the Montreal media, and he basically said he wanted to return to Montreal.
Oh no, I don't doubt it.
Yeah, but that's the offer. Now, from the reports around when he was signed, the offers were the same, and were the length of the term and the amount. But the problem is Texas is a no income tax state, right, and Quebec is taxed up the wazoo. I think it's got more taxes than in the province of Quebec than in Ontario. So,
but let's be real too. Radulov's always going to say this to sort of make everybody feel bad. But at the end of the day, he's always been about the dollar too. Let's be real about that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he came back when he was with Nashville. He came back for one reason, so he could burn that last year of his entry level. So when he came back again, he could completely be an unfettered UFA and go anywhere he wants.
Correct.
Yeah, and then in the playoffs, he decided to.
Not all altruism for him,
Yeah, and then in the playoffs, he decided he wanted to find out what Stoli's vodka tasted like.
Oh, I don't know. Is Stoli still the best? I don't know.
No. I personally, I like Kettle One or Absolute, or Absolute's the best of the cheaper brands.
Okay. You're a connoisseur of the cheap brands, are you, Mike?
No. I drink only the finest. Now, interesting comment that came out of this game. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it was before or after, but Ken Hitchcock, who has never been shy to make statements, was talking about this upper body, lower body injury description. I mean, anybody who's dealt with the Leafs the last few weeks with Austin Matthews. The most specificity we got out of the Leafs was an undiagnosed or an unspecified upper body injury. We didn't know if it was back or shoulder or what. It was just unspecified. And Hitchcock, is questioning, why teams are so secretive when it comes to disclosing injuries. And in his statement to the media, he said, "Our feeling is, just tell them what the injury is," meaning them, meaning the media, "and move forward and stop the dance."
Here's the thing about that. Teams know. I've spoken to locker room guys. For as long as there's mostly open practices, players talk to other players. Players know what's wrong with players. I get what Hitch is saying, but really this should only be for the playoffs. You shouldn't worry about it in the regular season because at the end of the day, I don't think there's any great surprise. Even with Carey Price, there's no great surprise what's going on here injury-wise. Teams probably know. And if you don't think it's X, then you know it's Y. You know what I mean? It's like, what are we really saving here? The way the league is now, how much targeting is really happening where guys are being targeted in a game because they have an injury and then all of a sudden they get clocked and they're out for long periods? Where are we even seeing that this is a problem?
Well, and Hitchcock went on and to say, players don't go out and say, he's got a broken left pinky and we're going to go after that pinky. Nobody thinks like that. In the regular season, I think that's true. But in the playoffs, with everything that's on the line, if somebody,
but that's fine. I'm okay with that in the playoffs. And look, I think we've seen in the playoffs it's hard to get a straight answer, and that's fair. We all get it. But regular season, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think, again, you know what this is? This is Hitch just being Hitch.
Yeah. Okay.
He got you to talk about him, didn't he?
Yeah. Now, interestingly, as opposed to Edmonton being out there potentially looking for a trade, Pierre LeBrun reported that Montreal, who has their own first, and they have potentially three second-round picks. If Sergachev plays over 40 games, they get an extra second-round pick from Tampa Bay. They have 3 seconds, and according to LeBrun, Bergevin is not looking to make any kind of moves to add players, even though he's got $8.5 million in salary cap room, which to me signifies, Russ. Now it goes hand in hand with the talk that they may not be completely unopposed to going the direction of a rebuild, or at least a reset.
They're doing a reset. Let's face it, they are.
Now, if they're doing a reset, then how do you do a reset with Carey Price in goal, who will win you games, with a linchpin number one defenseman in Shea Weber, who can change the course of games?
You're still losing games, Mike. It's only 2 guys.
Right, but Price is not in there.
I know, but it doesn't matter. They'll still lose games with Price in there too. They're not going to win them all. They're just looking to probably be middle of the first round pick-wise, which they will be. And they can get something good with that. They definitely could build with some good scouting with the seconds. And then if you think about it, maybe they'll even make a trade or two at the deadline and sweeten up. Maybe they'll even sweeten up some of those seconds into another first. I mean, they definitely could do that. And these are, the kind of moves that a lot of teams have been doing or trying to do. But here's the other thing, before we put all this heat on Bergevin, Nathan Bellio, how is he doing in Buffalo? He's not doing as well as we'd hoped. He's not doing anything. I saw him play bad the other night.
Yeah, everybody's playing bad in Buffalo right now. Everybody.
So, I mean, is that trade hurting him? No.
No, and they only got a third-round pick for him. So,
but again,
right, it's something.
It is, and cap relief, whatever his salary is.
I think the criticism being levied on Bergevin is more, the deal that we've been talking ad nauseum about, trading Sergachev, who to me was nearly a can't miss, for a very talented forward in Jonathan Drouin, and immediately putting Drouin in a position that he had never played in the NHL. That was the problem. We saw how talented Drouin was in Tampa Bay on the wing, but moving him, giving him the big contract, making the big deal, and then putting him as the number one center in Montreal was just stupidity.
But here's the thing. Even on a bad team, he's still got 13 points. And what if it does kick in for him next year? He's only 22. Right. It's not like it can't. He's still he is still in a development mode. And so, again, look, we all value a guy like Sergachev, but it's also hard to find centers. Maybe Drouin's going to take longer to figure out the center thing. He clearly is going to have all year to do it because now it's not going to matter.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, the pressure in that sense is off because at this point, I mean, it's only 21, 22 games into the season, but you continue to dig the hole that they're digging right now. They're not going to climb out.
Good. I mean, I don't want to kill it for Canadiens fans, but it doesn't look good. And so to dig out of this would take something pretty remarkable, actually. But here's the other thing. So if I look, in the faceoff dot, he's 40.7. It's not great, but if he can get it into 50 next year, that's fine. Especially if he's going to score 55 points, which again last year he had 53 points. Right now he seems pretty close to that same pace. He is developing. It's not like this is a dead trade.
Yeah. With the Thanksgiving holiday, we have 15 games on the schedule. We'll just go through them briefly. Yeah, that's it. There's one team, and I don't know. I can't see which one it is. Is the only team that is. There's only one that is on the has the day off. So obviously, because
here's the interesting thing: because of Thanksgiving and because of the way they've worked the schedule, all the Canadian teams are on the road for Thanksgiving, and all the American teams are home through Friday.
Yep. Yeah. Toronto is in Florida tonight, and then goes to Carolina on Friday. So, yeah. Okay, so one thing before we get to the schedule, a little interesting note here. Now, we mentioned yesterday when Kevin Allen was on the show that that Hockey Canada had petitioned the KHL to get their players. Apparently, along with that, the Swedes, the Finns, and the Czechs also have requested the same thing. I'm assuming that USA Hockey has done the same thing independently of those organizations. So that's going to put pressure on the KHL when it comes to the the IIHF agreement that they have, and if they decide to be sort of prickish about that, then they'll probably have some sort of IIHF sanction against the KHL. So this is a chess match. This is tit for tat, move one move for another. So it's getting interesting, but I think we'll have an idea of what's going to happen in the next few weeks. One thing that's sort of ancillary to that is the CHL coming out today and apparently indicating that the players that they are making available for the World Junior and potentially for the Olympics to Hockey Canada, to USA Hockey, that CHL owners only want to give up these players for one of these two international events. Remember, I know that they lighten up their schedule around World Junior time, but we're talking December 26th to I think January 5th.
Yeah,
for the World Junior, and I think it's mid-February to the 25th of February. So we're talking February 11th to February 25th. So
a meaty part of the season.
Right, exactly. And the thing is that, okay, if you give up one and maybe you lose 2 or 3 games for a particular player, and then he goes again to the Olympics, you're probably losing him for 5 or 6 games. It's a healthy chunk of the CHL, WHL, QMJHL, or OHL seasons. So they don't want that. So basically they're telling Hockey Canada, USA Hockey, it's one or the other. The player can either go to the World Junior or go to the Olympics, but not both.
If you remember, I said that I thought David Branch would be heard from at some point in this equation. He is. The NCAA will be next. Don't worry.
Sorry, I'm just chewing on some ice.
Okay. Yeah, but the NCAA will be the next one because, again, if you are in the World Juniors and then you do make the Olympic team, that's 4 weeks of teams missing you.
Yeah.
That's, it could be like 8 games out of a 35-game season.
And that's not, now I know what the World Juniors, they join their countries a few days before so they can go through a scrimmage or 2.
Yeah,
I think it's the same for the Olympics. I remember, with the NHL, it was like 2 or 3 days before, so they have at least 1 or 2 practices. Yeah. So that contributes even more. So it's they may hit the lose.
Plus the NCAA guys have to go to school, right? And so for 2 tournaments, like this is going to be something where I bet you the NCAA will be the next to do it. And again, like we were saying yesterday, the end of the day, I don't know what these rosters are going to look like. We still don't know. Like the crazy thing is we usually go into an Olympic year and we could already be talking about the rosters and the players. And we're not talking about anything. We don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of pathetic, but it's also very interesting.
It's like us trying to form a pickup game, day of Thanksgiving, and we still haven't done it. And it's like, we're going to just make phone calls. Like, we don't know. We don't know who's going to be on this team.
But by the way, for something that you sent me offline before the show, I think I could manage the New York Yankees.
Well, funny thing is like I guess one guy thought Francesa was kidding, but if you listen to the soundbite, it does not sound like he was kidding. And he did talk about once him wanting to be in management, and so somebody said that was the NFL. He felt like he could be a GM for. Listen, I feel like I have a good knowledge of sports, and I'm sure you do too. Yes. Neither of us, or at least I don't think I can manage at the major league level without having any experience whatsoever.
Okay, I will say this, and I think that the suggestion that Mike Francesa can manage the New York Yankees is hilarious. As someone who is, and granted, it's Stratomatic. It's not Major League. But as somebody who's played Stratomatic for 40 years, I know when to bat a lefty, when to bring in a left-handed reliever. I know the tactics. It's the manager nowadays is handling players, handling personalities, handling egos. I couldn't do that. There's no way that Francesa could do that. That's where Mike Babcock in hockey or Joe Girardi in Major League Baseball, that's where they earn their money. So do I think I could step in and manage the Yankees if it was every aspect of the job? Not a chance in hell.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like the interpersonal workings, whatever. Like, I get it. When you're really good at your job and you're in the media, you think you could do these things. But the guys that have done it, right, that have really done a good job from going from, like, let's say the media or behind the microphone to the dugout, have already played in that league or have already had some coaching in that league, and they were just doing that again as a way to make a living.
Yeah.
Nobody is doing it from a perspective of, I'm a talk show host to, I'm going to go out and manage. Like, it was just, I got the biggest laugh out of that.
Yeah, Aaron Boone played in the league. His father was a manager in Major League Baseball. You know, he's been an analyst
for baseball's whole life.
Yeah, so, you know, he would be a novice as a manager, but do you think he could handle it? Yeah, I think he could because he's been a lifer. So, all right, so 15 games in the NHL. As I said, Maple Leafs in Florida to play the Panthers.
We'll answer chat room questions too.
Great. Well, we're just going to go through these quickly because Panthers are 7-11-2, but have played better since Luongo has returned from injury.
Definitely have.
The Wild are playing in Buffalo to face the Sabres, who are 5-12-4. Interesting comment from Ray Ferraro of TSN, who I have a lot of respect for. When asked if Arizona was the worst team in the NHL, he said after seeing them play the last few games, and now they've won 3 games in a row, he would give that designation to the Buffalo Sabres. He thinks.
I would too. I think the Sabres have displaced the Coyotes. I do. It's awful. A friend on Facebook, and I basically said they're like a dull blade now, like, you know, just for a bad pun.
They're a butter knife. That's what they are.
They're a butter knife.
Edmonton plays at Detroit. Edmonton.
This is a tough game for Edmonton now. This is
Edmonton 3 games in 4 nights at St. Louis, at Detroit, Thanksgiving break at Buffalo. That's tough.
Yeah.
And, you know, Buffalo's not good either, but it's going to be a battle of the bad teams, but still.
A lot of pizza and chicken and broccoli while the American players are eating turkey.
There you go. A lot of Chinese food. A lot of I'm
telling you, they don't eat Chinese. They're eating chicken and broccoli, and they're getting pizza. That's what they're getting.
Bruins play the Devils. Devils are 12-5-3, but got hit by the injury bug. Kyle Palmieri out 4 to 6 weeks.
That hurts a bit.
Foot. Palmieri's been a key player for them, so that's a loss. Flyers play the Islanders tonight in Brooklyn.
Tomorrow. Oh, in Brooklyn, yes, and then Friday,
Right. The Canucks.
So actually, it's tonight that we might see Sam Morin. Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot about tonight's game.
The Canucks do the Pennsylvania 2-step. Philadelphia last night. The Penguins tonight. You know, the Penguins, their goal differential is horrendous.
Doesn't matter. They're laying in the weeds, man.
They're just sitting back and
they know the score.
Yeah, they're conserving their energy.
They are.
Ottawa at Washington. Ottawa is 8-5-6, so they're getting those loser points, which I won't say that. No, never mind. But the Capitals are 11-10-1. Matt Duchene, I know that through 5 games he had not scored a point with the Senators. Not to say this is a concern, but this is a concern.
It's not a concern. Move on.
New York Rangers.
The Caps have moved into wild card position at least, so things have gotten a little better for them, but not much. 5 points is everything in the Metro. Like, literally, you could be, with adding 5 points, like, move up 4 spots, and if you lose 5 points, you could be at the bottom.
The New York Rangers visit Carolina. The Calgary Flames visit Columbus.
Now, for the Rangers, Carolina, Ryan McDonough is out. He's got this abdominal strain, although many think that he might have been hurt weeks ago because he hasn't played particularly great, but he is the kind of guy that guts it out, and he's had some maintenance days for practice. Steve Camper's in, but so is Brendan Smith. So now it's, now this is the weakest that we will be talking about Rangers defense in maybe the last decade. I mean, if you go back, like they've had a pretty rock-solid defense for, 5 or 6 out of the last 8 years. Then it got a little weaker last year, and it's a little weaker this year, but they sort of got it together. And then now with McDonough out, this is going to be an adventure.
The rematch of the 2015 Stanley Cup Final, Blackhawks at Lightning. 15-3-2 for Tampa Bay. I mean, this is not as glorious of a matchup as it used to be, because I think the Blackhawks are a little, they're good, but they're not where they were a few years ago. This is the NBCSN game.
That's a good game, actually.
It talk about Edmonton being challenged. It goes from bad to worse. They faced Radulov last night in Dallas. Tonight, the Canadiens go to Nashville.
Oh.
Enjoy.
Yeah, that's like the worst possible scenario for them.
Yeah, Dallas at Colorado, San Jose at Arizona, who has won 3 games in a row, and the Vegas Golden Knights against the Anaheim Ducks, and a pretty good matchup on the West Coast if you're still awake. Winnipeg at the LA Kings. Now, you said you had some questions in the chat.
Yeah. So here's the chat room questions. First one is, do I see the Rangers getting wild card? Are they a lottery team? And it's from Brandon. I'll be happy with both, honestly, but I'd rather have a high draft pick. We're going to find out now. Like, we're going to find out without McDonough what they are, because Lundqvist finally had been playing better.
Yeah.
This is going to be the salient point. If he misses, let's say, 2 weeks, we'll find out what they do in that 2 weeks. I don't know.
It's all going to be on Lundqvist. I mean, if their best defensive,
it always is, though.
Yeah, it is. But I'm saying if their best defensive pairing is Mark Stahl and Shattenkirk, then you're gonna have Lundqvist be super hot to be able to keep them above 500 for that stretch.
And Carolina's doing an interesting thing with their pairings. I saw Hanifin is actually on the third pairing. Fleury is now playing with Justin Falk.
Well, I mean, that makes sense simply because Falk is a veteran puck rusher.
Yeah.
And Hayden Fleury is more of a stay-at-home big defenseman who can skate, but he's got the wingspan. I think the big
and the strength. And
the big defenseman who probably stays back a little more, and the veteran who jumps into the attack more. That's a good compliment.
It is a good compliment. So we'll see, but I wonder now.
But the Hanifin
on the third pairing, is that some foreshadowing there?
Yeah, the Hanifin on the third pairing is, it's like, again, this is like aiming towards the bridge deal, aiming towards not paying him what they paid Slavin and Pesci. I'm telling you, it's not going to fly with that guy. They're going to go down the same road that Winnipeg went with Jacob Trouba. That's not a good scenario for them, and I still think they need scoring before they can really legitimately be a playoff team. So if I was Francis, I'd explore what you could get on the market for Hanifin. But
yeah, we'll see. It could happen.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, let me see.
Not you, Perla.
Perla, we know what she wants.
She wants to sleep. That's what she wants.
No, she's in a playful mood today. I will say this to Thomas. He still thinks both wild cards coming from the Metro. I don't.
No.
I think Boston will be a player in that, and Detroit could be a player in that. Yeah. And I think you gotta wait till Boston has all their players back. They're hanging in there without that, and so I think that this is a pretty big deal. And so I'm not ready to say that the wild cards are from the Metro yet. Can't do it.
Yeah, I still think that the Atlantic could be balanced 4-4. I mean, granted, the Atlantic right now, I mean, Buffalo is definitely out. Montreal is about a week of losses away from being out. Boston has weathered the injuries. Detroit has played better than expected. Florida is not completely out of it if Luongo stays healthy. So I think there are teams that are still on sort of the precipice in the Atlantic.
So now tomorrow, we're not going to have a show.
Yes.
And so I kind of wonder now for the National Dog Show, which will be on in my house. It seems like 24/7. And Jay, what's his name? The guy who does Peterman, I forget his name in real life. He'll be doing the broadcast. What dog are you rooting for, Mike? What breed?
I always like terriers.
So you're going to root for the terrier.
Yes. I mean, there are different terriers, and there's the Boston Terrier, there's the Wire Fox Terrier. I always root for terriers.
All right, I am rooting for the Great Pyrenees this year because I've been rooting for greyhounds for a long time, and
you're biased. Kaya's rooting for the Great Pyrenees,
of course, and so she is affecting my vote. I'm trying to look and see when maybe the last time a Great Pyrenees has won, and here we go. Actually, maybe 2017, last year, Westminster.
Wow.
Let's see.
Well, I mean, if it's not,
no, it looks like it's been a while.
If it's not terriers, then dachshunds.
Oh, you like the dachshunds, do you?
I like the wiener dogs.
Okay.
So does Phil Kessel.
All right. Well, I'm going to root for the Great Pyrenees, but yeah, I think it's been a while, so we'll see how they do. This is the National Dog Show, though. This isn't, Westminster.
Yes. All right. Well, for all of our American viewers, have a happy Thanksgiving. For all of our Canadian viewers, have a nice day off from the NHL. Watch some real American football, because that Grey Cup thing, I don't know if that's real football.
No. Listen, the Grey Cup's good.
I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
The last time the Argos won, I was, actually wasn't the last time. They won before that. But I did go to it once, and the Argos did win. But that's,
Was that when Rocket Ishmael was playing for them?
No, that was when Damon Allen played his last season for them. Marcus Allen's brother.
Marcus Allen's brother. That's true.
Yeah, and then he retired after that. But they've won it since then. Ricky Ray is the man.
We will be back on Friday at some point with some semblance of a show. Either 12:30, 1, 3. We'll let you know.
I'll let you know. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know yet, but we will let
you right now.
Yes. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.
Go